Now in this we are going to study criticisms of welfare definition. Okay. Now first is what? Economics regarded as a social science only. Now what do you mean by social science? Social science means the study of human behavior. And we have studied welfare definition. What welfare definition states? Welfare definition states that it is the study of the human behavior as an individual or social action. So that means ultimately it is what? It is a social science. Okay, that means it studies the total human behavior. So that is why he has just regarded economics as a social science, whereas according to other economists it is not only social science, it also has other objects too. Next is impractical classification of activity. Now what do you mean by impractical classification of activities? That is, it has pointed out that distinction between economic and non-economic activity is unscientific, illogical and illusionary, since all human activities have an economic aspect. So that is what they say, that every activity of human is one or the other way is a economic aspect. So there is no differentiation between economic and non-economic activity. Okay. So next is materialistic aspect. Now what do you mean by materialistic aspect? That means it is missing the grounds of materialistic things, that is real things. They exclude non-material things. Now real things, when we are checking out in real terms, we have two kinds. We have material kinds also, we have non-material kinds also. But it has emphasized only material kinds, not non-material kinds. That means it has totally excluded non-material services like doctors, lawyers. Even they earn money with their services, right, without selling anything. But that has not been stated in the welfare definition. Okay. Now moving on to the next criticism, restricted scope of economics. Now what do you mean by restricted scope of economics? That means the area of economics, Robbins' definition has restricted that area. Okay, now economics studies several activities which hardly promotes economic welfare according to the other economists. Like for example, liquor, cigarette and guns. What they do? Do they promote any economic welfare? No. But yet production of these goods are being carried out and it is a economic activity. So we study this in economics. So that is what he said, that he has limited the area of economics till welfare only. Okay. Next is vague concept of material welfare. Vague concept, that is illusionary concept. Now what they say, that economic welfare can be measured in terms of quantity, whereas it is, we cannot measure it in terms of quantity. Okay, we cannot measure welfare, material welfare in quantitative form, like 1 kg, 1 ton, 1 quintal. Can you do that? No. Welfare is what? Welfare is a subjective thing, that is, it is psychic in nature. So what you can do? You can understand it. So it is related to mental makeup of a person. It differs according to time, place and individual. So what will happen if it is a feeling? If you have to understand, it will vary to every individual, right? It depends on place, time, person, everything. Thus welfare cannot be measured in objective terms. Okay, in real terms it cannot be measured. So next we will move on to the scarcity definition. Now who has given the scarcity definition? Lionel Robbins. Okay, Robbins has given this definition. Now according to Robbins, economics is the science which studies human behavior as a relationship between ends and scarce means which have alternative uses. I will repeat the definition. Economics is the science which studies human behavior as a relationship between ends and scarce means which have alternative uses. Now scarce means limited resources which have many uses. Okay. Now Robbins has, according to Robbins' definition, the first characteristics of economics is unlimited ends. That is what he said. They have many wants, right? That is what he said, ki human behavior is what? It is a relationship between ends and square means. Ends means wants, okay? Now, wants are unlimited, right? Now, ends here refers to human wants. That is what I said. Ends means human wants. A fundamental fact of economic life is that ends or human wants are unlimited. We ourselves know if one want of ours is fulfilled, another want takes place, right? So that is what it is, unlimited. Human wants are not only large in number, but they tends to multiply over time. Multiply over time means with time it keeps on increasing, okay? So as one want is satisfied, another want crop up. That's what right now I said. If one is satisfied, another will grow. Fine. So in view of the multiplicity of want and the increase in their number over time, it is not possible to satisfy all the human wants. Why? Because it is unlimited. Now after ends, that is unlimited wants, he emphasized on scarce means. Now what do you mean by scarce means? Scarce means, that means limited resources, right? Now here means what? Productive resources. What are the productive resources? Land, labor, capital, etc., right? Which are need to produce and procure goods. Now procure goods means, that means purchase raw materials. Fine. Now produce means, now there it need to be processed, okay, and produced to satisfy human wants. That means it will be produced as per the requirement of human wants, right? Now resources are said to be scarce in the sense that the supply of resources is limited as compared to their demand. Now if we compare with the demand, the resources are limited, or you can say scarce. So it should be noted that in terms of scarcity, it is used in absolute sense. Okay, so it is not used in absolute sense, but it is used in relative sense. How relative sense? That means it has related to the wants. They have not used only means. That means they have not, when the definition has not explained only resources. No, it has explained resources with comparison to want. So wants are unlimited, and according to the want, resources are not available. Though with the pass of time, resources have been increased, right? But then even equally want has increased. Okay, so compared to again resources, if we'll compare, want has increased more. So that is why the resources to satisfy that want is limited. Now next feature is alternative uses of means. Now what do you mean by alternative uses of means? That means the resources which are available, they have alternative uses. Now for example, if you take land, okay, you can produce wheat on land. Moreover, it can use as a residential purpose. You can use the same land for any big shopping mall, right? So you can use it for different purpose. So that is what it has, alternative uses. Likewise, even labor, they can work in field also, they can work in factory also, they can do their own business, they can work for others. So the use of scarce resources in the production of one commodity prevents its use for any other commodity. Suppose if you are using land for producing wheat, can you use the same piece of land for other purpose? No. So it restricts. Fine. So that is what they say, that it has alternative uses. The problem of allocation of resources in the production of different commodities would not arise in the case of resources whereof specific use or of single use, because in that case resources have to be used for the production of that specific commodity only. Now they say, if at all we have a specific commodity which can be used for a specific person, like if you say film stars, now what they can do? They can only act for films, right? So that is what their resources are, whatever limited, but it can be used for limited purpose only. It don't have multiple uses. So it is very easy to decide. But in case if any commodity has multiple uses, then it becomes difficult. Okay. So allocation of such kind of resources becomes difficult. Next is choice. Choice. Now since we have scarce resources and resources have multiple uses, if multiple uses are there, that means alternatives are there, then definitely choice comes into existence. Now what do you mean by choice? Choice means now human wants, that means ends, as they are endless, and people have to make a choice in allocating these resources for producing different commodities on the basis of their relative importance. Now that means it all depends what important is right now. What should I do with the particular resources which are available, from where I can get maximum out of minimum. So that is how I will make the choice. Okay, so that is how I will allocate the resources. This is what choice means. Now last feature is economics as a science. Now according to Robbins, economics is a science. Why? It provides a systematic knowledge with regards to human efforts in solving economic problems, okay, arising out of scarce means and unlimited wants. That is what Robbins says. Okay, that is, it goes with the system. First what is science? First it check out the apparatus, so that means whatever resources available, fine. Then what it do? It observe, then practically it works out, and finally it comes to the conclusion. So that is what according to Robbins, that it goes with that kind of system in case of scarce means and unlimited wants. Okay, now economics is about making choice in the backdrop of scarcity. Economics formulates various economic laws which helps in solving economic problems. Okay, so that is what he says. He says that economic has formulated various laws. When you check out, backdrop means behind the scene. Behind the scene of what? Scarce means and limited resources and unlimited wants. Now if we go behind the scene, there is a systematic law of economics which is working out to solve the economic problem. This is what Robbins want to state. Okay, now we will move on to the criticisms of his definition. That means criticisms of scarcity definition. So first is narrow view of economics. Now other economists says that Robbins definition is missing on the grounds of what? That means it is only positive science. Okay, by making it neutral between ends. Fine. So what they say, he is just checking out the positive part. Many contemporary economists believe that economists are required to tell that it's good or bad about certain choices. Now what they say, that every economist, it is a responsibility of them that they have to explain the good and bad. That means the benefits and side effects both. But what Robbins is doing, Robbins is just telling about the benefits. Okay, there is general agreement among economists at present that economics is not only a positive science, okay, or you can say it is not only a positive part but normative science also, means negative part also. Fine. So whatever choices you are doing, it may give you positive result, it may give you negative result. That is what economists want to say. So it has a narrow view of economics. Now next criticism is restricted subject matter of economics. Now Robbins, he has given his definition with regard to the allocation of resources, right? That is what he said, behind the scene, backdrop of ends and means. If we check out, then there is a proper law. When we say ends and means, that means what he is doing, he is checking out the theory of resource allocation. Fine, but he has missed out, that means he has not focused on other important economic issues like economic instability, unemployment, income determination, and economic growth and development. These are the main factors which work out in the country, right? So that is what it has restricted subject matter of economics. Now next is static definition. Now what do you mean by static definition? That means the greatest defect in Robbins' definition is that it has pointed out by critics. Okay, the big problem which has been pointed out by the critics is that it is static in its contents. Now, according to critics, what Robbins has said, Robbins has taken a static view of the scarcity problem. That means Robbins' definition does not take into account the possibility of increase in resources over time. With economic growth, availability of resources and their efficiency increases. Now, what they say, as the time pass, okay, not only time, but then with all improvements, no doubt resources will increase, efficiency of the people will increase, product will increase, right? So that has been totally ignored by Robbins. That is what they want to say. Economics is not only concerned with the present economic problem, but also with the future problems. Okay, so what Robbins stated, he has given static, that is in current form only, present form only, whereas the problem which arises, it's not only present, but it has a relation with future also. Robbins' definition is regarded as static, as it takes into consideration presently available means only. So what it is checking out? Only present condition, only present means. There, it is not checking out future problems or future means. So that is why it is static. Next is economics as a science. Now, that is what we have studied. Last feature, that is economics as a science, right? Now, Robbins says that economics is a science, but in fact economics is both science and art. Okay, so they say economics is, agreed, it's science, but it is art also. Why? Because scarcity definition, because it studies the human behavior, right? No doubt it has economics law, everything is there, it has a systematic approach, but then ultimately it is a study of human behavior, right? So it is both science and art. Okay, scarcity definition of economics has been reduced economics into pure science. Okay, a science that is concerned with the formulation of economic laws only. So that is what they say, that it has connected economics with pure science, whereas it is science also and arts also. Now, last criticism is economic problem may not always arise from scarcity. That means what critics wants to say, that no doubt problems arise from scarcity, but it is not only that it every time it is arising out of scarcity. Sometimes it is because of over production, or you can say over availability of goods also, right? They have given one example, that means in 1930 the depression means the economy was in depression. Why? Because it was abundance of goods, that means overproduction, which created a economic problem in various capitalist country. Capitalist country means the country who believe in production. Okay, so it has created a problem. So it is not always scarcity creates a problem, sometimes it is over availability or overproduction also creates problem. That is what they want to say. Now we'll move on to the last type of definition, that is growth oriented definition, which was being given by Samuelson. Okay, now after Robbins, Samuelson was the next who gave the definition, that is growth definition. Do remember, in case of definition you have to be very particular. Meanings you can give in your own words, but definition you have to learn as it is. Okay, so be very careful while learning the definition, you have to by heart it. Now, according to Professor Paul Samuelson, economics is the study of how people and society choose, with or without the use of money, to employ the scarce productive resources which have alternative uses, to produce various commodities over time and distribute them for consumption now or in the future among various people and group in the society. Okay, let's go for the definition once again. What is it? Economics is the study of how people and society choose, with or without the use of money. Do remember, what is it? People and society choose with or without the use of money to employ the scarce productive resources. Okay, so what they are doing? They are employing scarce productive resources. Second part, which have alternative uses, to produce various commodities over time. what is it? Third part is which have alternative uses to produce various commodities over time and distribute them for consumption. And distribute them for what? Consumption, now or in the future, among various people and group in the society. So this is what? This is the definition of Samuelson. Now what are the features? The very first feature is emphasis on economic problems. So right now, just now we read out the definition, what it has stated. It has stated all the problems. So likewise, Robin Samuelson also emphasized the problem of choice. Okay. Now problem of choice was arising out of what? Scarce resources and unlimited wants. Thus this definition gives a realistic explanation of economic problem. Okay. Next is long-term perspective. Now the problem of scarcity of resources is not merely confined to the present time. What Robbins has done? Robbins has explained definition as per the present time, right? But here it is not explaining, that means Samuelson is not explaining the definition for present time only, but it is also connecting it to the future. Okay. Wants are not static, they are dynamic. Dynamic, static means it is not fixed. Okay, so wants are not fixed, it is dynamic. Dynamic means keeps on changing. Okay, wants grow and multiply over time. Okay, that's what we have studied. Wants, what happen? It goes, it crops, it grows and multiply. Multiply means, that means it keeps on expanding. Along with the expansion of wants, resources also increase over time. So no doubt when wants are increasing, even we try to increase the resources. Hence we are not merely concerned with the allocation of given resources, but also with how the expansion and growth of resources is to be used. So here we are not dealing with only what? We are not dealing with the problem of allocation of resources. Rather, we are dealing with the problem how the expansion and growth of resources is to be used to cope up with the increasing human wants. That means how it will satisfy the increasing human wants, the resources which has been increased. Okay. So Samuelson has taken the long-term perspective of economic problem. So he has what done? He has elaborated the criteria. That means expanded the perspective of definition. Okay. Next is dynamic approach. Just now we studied dynamic, that means he has already said that it keeps on changing. So Samuelson has adopted a dynamic approach to the study of economics by taking economic growth as an integral part of economics. That means internal part of economics. As such, his definition has imparted dynamism to economic problem. It has imparted dynamism means it has already given a dynamism. Dynamism means a state which keeps on changing. Economics problem which keeps on changing. Thus, with the change, that means with this word that it keeps on changing, what he has done? He has widened the subject matter of economics. Now the next feature is universal problem. Now according to Samuelson's definition, that economics is not only dynamic in content, it also wider in scope. That means he has rightly said that the problem of resource allocation is a universal problem. Why it is a universal problem? Because it is not only one country is facing this problem. We cannot say that only India is facing the problem of allocation of resources. Each and every country at one point of time, they are facing this problem. So any type of economy, rather it is barter economics or you can say money use. Barter economics means the exchange of goods. Okay, you all know when there is no use of money, that is barter economics. And when there is a use of money, that is money using exchange economies. Okay. Now in any case the problem arises same, that is allocation of resources, and it is universal, not with one individual, right? Next is comprehensive. Now Samuelson's definition of economics is very comprehensive. It is growth oriented as well as future oriented. Now what he has done? He has emphasized on both the part, growth also and future perspectives also. So that is why it is comprehensive. It has incorporated Marshall's welfare aspects as well as Robbins' scarcity. and choice aspect. So what he has done, he has blended both. Who? Marshall and Robbins. Fine. So he has blended both the definition and form a new kind of definition of his own. So that is why it is comprehensive. Next is broader perspective. Now what do you mean by broader perspectives? That means the subject area, the subject matter of economics is broader. Why? Because it includes consumption, production, exchange, distribution, economic growth, everything. Right? So what it is doing, it is not only including growth but also checking out the future perspectives also. So it is wider in scope. Okay, so far this Samuelson's definition has not been strongly criticized, so we don't have any criticism, touch wood, that is good. Okay, but in future, if at all there will be a criticism, then we will get it. So far it is not there. We will end up with a features only. So features, we have 6 features here. First is emphasis on economic problem, then long-term perspective, then dynamic approach, then universal problem, then comprehensive, then broader perspectives. Now so far we keep on saying subject matter of economics. But what actually subject matter of economics is? Subject matter of economics is divided in 2 major branches. Which are this? These are microeconomics and macroeconomics. Now let's understand what do you mean by microeconomics and what do you mean by macroeconomics. Now this prefix macro is derived from a Greek word that is micros. M-I-K-R-O-S, micros, means small. Okay, so microeconomics studies the economic behavior of individual economic unit and individual economic variable. So when we study about any individual economic unit or individual behavior, or you can say individual economic variable, that means we are studying what? We are studying microeconomics. Okay, like for example, if you are talking about one individual firm, okay, one individual firm if you are talking, that means what? Demand and supply, or you can say one single market. Okay, so that means what you are doing? You are studying microeconomics. Now what is macroeconomics? Now macro, this prefix is derived from again a Greek word which is macros. Macros, M-A-K-R-O-S, that is macros, which means large. Okay, so microeconomics is what? Is the study of economic as a whole. So when you are studying an economy as a whole, that means entire country, that means it is you are studying macroeconomics. So macroeconomics deals with the functioning of our economy as a whole. So suppose you are studying about complete Indian market. Do remember, complete country ka market. Then that is macroeconomics. If you are studying about one particular state, that means you are studying microeconomics. Am I clear? So this is what the meaning of macro and microeconomics is. Now we'll move on to the last topic of this chapter, that is difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics. Meaning we have already studied. Now we will go on to the second point, that is unit of study. Now it studies what? Microeconomics studies individual economic unit. Okay, that is what we have studied. What is it? It studies individual consumer, individual economy, right? So it studies individual economic unit. Now here it is concerned with the behavior of the economy as a whole. That is microeconomics. Macroeconomics, it studies the economy as a whole. Now microeconomics, it deals with the functioning of various market, okay, both commodity market and factor market and the relationship among these market. Whereas it deals with the broader economic like aggregate. Okay, so what you are checking out? You are checking out total. Aggregate means sum total, like national income, total employment, aggregate consumption, aggregate saving and investment, journal price level, economic growth and balance of payment. Now these all topics you will understand in 12th standard much better. Next is basic parameters. Now what are the basic parameters of microeconomics? Basic parameters of microeconomics is price. So it takes only price. Other matters for them is constant, okay, whereas in this case it is national income. National income means complete country ka income is the basic parameter of a subject matter of macroeconomics. Now different perspectives. What is the perspective of microeconomics? It is bottom up view of the economy. Bottom up view means from the beginning down, okay, whereas in case of macro it is top down view of the economy. Top down means it studies on the whole, okay, top down. Fine. Now next point is method of study. What technique it use in case of microeconomics? It use the technique of partial equilibrium analysis. Now what do you mean by partial equilibrium analysis? That means we make assumptions of what? Ceteris paribus. Now what is ceteris paribus? According to that, other things are equal. Now other things being equal, that means we have already studied what it uses. It uses price as a parameter, so it only give consideration to price. Here it uses the technique of quasi-general equilibrium analysis. That means it study the interdependence of macroeconomics variable like aggregate demand, aggregate supply. They are connected, interrelated. So that is what it study. It uses quasi-general equilibrium analysis. Last is nature of assumption. What kind of assumption micro do? Now microeconomics, it assumes that total output, income and employment, journal price level, etc. are given. Okay, it is already given. It studies the problem of optimal allocation of resources. So it checks out only the allocation of resources. Whereas it do what? It carry out the assumption of allocation of resources, distribution of outputs, spending on particular goods and services, relative price, etc. are given. It explains how aggregate output, income, employment and price level, etc. are determined in the economy as a whole. Okay, so what it is doing? It is explaining only aggregate, that is total of all. Okay, here we end up with a chapter. I know it has turned long, but I just want to finish up the chapter. Fine.